Hey fellas, I updated the rad build. Let's start with the talent tree. This is what the rad build used to look like. And now, here's the updated one. Let's rapid fire the changes I've made to the build. Firstly, I traded the Fortitude and Fellowship talent for Purge the Unclean, mainly for the extra unyielding enemies damage bonus. The extra unyielding damage really helps with getting rid of bulwarks, reapers, and bosses alike, and the extra infested damage also contributes to horde clears, so I can't complain. The next new addition to the build is Second Wind, allowing you to replenish some toughness on dodge. Being rewarded with toughness for something that you always do on a fight in Darktide can't be understated. This can also be said for the extra weak spot and critical hit damage you get on dodge from Duelist, another addition to the build. This next passive, I can't really imagine ever going without after trying it out for a few games. It is Thy Wrath Be Swift. Being immune to stun locks entirely is incredibly valuable for any situation. There have been scenarios where I've been blindsided by an unseen grunt only to be trapped or snared by a dog immediately after because of the stun lock. Never again will that happen with this trait. I'll be able to immediately dodge wherever there's free space. And while the description doesn't say, this stun lock immunity also applies to range attacks, so Reaper and Gunner Fire is completely negated when it comes to stun locking you. I believe this perk should be on every build regardless, it's that good. Now, moving forward to the keystones of the talent tree, I have two different variants for you. The crit variant and the momentum variant. Let's start with the crit first. The most important perks of this variant is Invocation of Death and Blazing Piety, both of which complement each other greatly. With Blazing Piety active, along with any other traits or blessings that involve critical hit chance, you will be proccing Invocation of Death to get your combat ability back pretty quickly. That wraps up the crit variant of the build. Now let's move on to the momentum variant. The first notable trait that you'll be picking here is Swift Certainty. With this perk you have the flat sprint speed buff, as well as the interesting effect of dodging while sprinting. Do note that this dodging mechanic comes with a couple of asterisks. The first is that this perk has no effect on melee attacks at all. Only ranged attacks are affected by this mechanic, like gunfire from gunners or reapers. And this dodging mechanic can only be active if you are sprinting at an angle from the gunfire, not directly towards the gunfire. Next we have Pious Cutthroat for some cooldown reduction from backstab kills. Straight and to the point, it's helpful. Finally, we've gotten to the Keystone, Inexorable Judgment. This Keystone works out so well with the talent tree layout that you're looking at here. This is how this Keystone basically works. While moving, you gain momentum stacks, which can cap out at 20. Each stack of momentum gives you a 1% boost to your melee attack, your ranged attack, and raw damage. If you want to use these momentum stacks, you simply have to hit something, whether that be from your melee weapon or ranged weapon. Once these buffs are active, it lasts for 8 seconds. And while this current buff duration is active, you can start another set of momentum stacks to be used after this one is expired. Combine this with Inebriate's Poise, and you'll be able to get the max threshold of 20 stacks very quickly per exchange. The fact that I can get boosts to my melee and ranged attack speed as well as damage all at once just from moving and dodging around a bit is incredible. Takes some getting used to, but it is incredibly fun once you get past that learning threshold. And that brings an end to the talent tree section. Now we go on to the weapons. Starting off with the melee, it's still going to be the Katakan MK3 Combat Blade. I love this thing to death, and it gives me the mobility and damage that I need to really just take care of anything in the map. The only difference between this current build and the last build that I uploaded is that I have two different knives with different blessings for different scenarios. The first knife being the Rat's Claw, which has Flesh Terror and Riposte for blessings. This second knife, the Rat's Tooth, is much like the first one, except the only difference is that it has Ruthless Backstab instead of Flesh Terror. Now for the ranged weapons. This really depends on what build that I'm currently using. So if I'm using the crit variation, it's almost always going to be the Zerona Revolver, aka the Rat's Side Piece. And for the momentum variation, it expands to lots of weapons really. The reason being is that this build gives you so much more attack speed for your ranged weapon whenever you have max momentum stacks. Like, for example, the Cantrell shotgun. That thing fires incredibly slow, but with max stacks, you get some very good damage output at a reasonable speed. That brings an end to the weapon section. Now for the final section, curios. My curios consist entirely of stamina curios. My whole philosophy behind this is to simply just not get hit, and to do that, I just need all the stamina that I can possibly get, and all of it contributes to my blocking, pushing, push attacks, and sprinting, which is more valuable to me than the health or toughness you acquire from those curios. And that pretty much concludes everything about the updated rat build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I definitely want to know what you guys think about the updated rat build in the comments section. Alrighty then, I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Peace.